Welcome to my channel, K Reads. On this channel, I'm going to read everything from fanfics, the novels, to manga, to webtoon, short stories, and a regular book. Read with me. I'm starting with a fanfic from the Naruto fandom called Demon Fox, which is a family by ExplosiveNova. Kurama is pissed. He just gave his life to save his brat. Now he finds himself back in time, sealed away once again, stuck inside a child. The QE isn't playing by timeline rules. He decides that somebody needs to parent Naruto, which means Toad decides to burn down Konoha. That's just entertainment for the Fox. Unbeknownst to him, somebody overseeing the timeline decides to bring back Kushina, now two blonde Jinchuriki and one former Jinchuriki, bring change by causing chaos. Hey, that's just a summary. I've read some of this book before, but I forgot where I stopped, so I'm starting over, okay? Anyway, Chapter 1, Breaking the Timeline. Anybody telling you that time travel is possible is an idiot. All living things experience the pain of death, even massive beasts made of chakra. One minute he was fist bumping his brat for the last time, knowing that he'd reform 7 years later, hopefully without being captured to power another 10-tailed beast and without the pale aliens breaking up his neighborhood. God, he couldn't stand the idea of reuniting with his brat and his pathetic tears. The next, however, he was spitting up cold water and slamming his head into thick bars. The power of the 8 trigram seal singed his fur, and then the Kyuubi kicks him back into the abyss of his brat's mindscape. He cursed up a storm, his tails flailing angrily at his chakra being condensed and imprisoned, distant and out of his reach. Kurama growled, his red eyes narrowing at the iron gate, locking him inside the seal he hated so much. He couldn't feel his brat, the freedom and trust that had formed over the last great war absent. Biting back a growl, he raised a giant claw and tapped at the gate. It clanked dully, but didn't respond to his light touch. What the F, you brat? You're back in time. Usually his grown brat would come running at his calls, but he received no response. The gate remained standing, the seal remained tight, and his cursing worsened. Various slamming a clawed fist back into the bars, Kurama ignored the pain and searched for his warden's chakra signature. After a few seconds, he found him. He was alive, but something was strange. His chakra was weak, far weaker than it should have been. Kurama had left his brat alive. He shouldn't feel weak, and Kurama is the one who burned out his energy, keeping the idiot going. Biting his lip, the QB put on his warden's chakra signature. It pulsed at his intrusion, recoiling from his touch. What the heck? Why was the brat resisting him? Over here and explain yourself. You're in for an awakening. Digging his claws into the watery ground, the Kiwi roared and lashed out one of his tails at the seal. The seal responded by coming to life, locking his approach with a pulse of electricity. He growled and managed to leak out some of his chakra. The red energy poured into the water on the other side and he yanked. The demon fox let his face fall into the water with a weak splash. He huffed, his ears twitching at the sound of footsteps. Once he felt that annoying chakra signature approaching, he sneered and lifted his head. Took you long enough, you brat. The footsteps halted and the chakra he sensed shrank in fear. Again, what the heck? This brat may not be very smart, but he trusted Kurama. So why was he responding with fear? Well, get over here so I can see we get this seal off me. A small figure tiptoed close to him, a shock of blonde hair appearing in the dim light. Rama launched up in alarm. Like, wait a minute. This was not his brat. His brat was Hokage, the leader of his village, and even has fawns of his own. Or Toei Himurari, alright? So why the heck was a small child approaching him? Well, Boruto was not pranking you. I highly doubt he's able to get into Naruto's mindscape during this battle. You know? The child stopped, clenching at his baggy t-shirt and nervously biting his lip. Big blue eyes stared up at the demon, and was that a bruise on his cheek? A bruise on his cheek? Who are you? Where am I? Rama's jaw dropped, and he ducked back into the darkness, hoping to hide his shame. Not you shame. Now that you know that this is a child Naruto and not Hokage Naruto, and you was just yelling at him, cursing at him too, I cannot. This was his brat, but not the one he knew. Somehow, some way, it had traveled back to his kid's childhood. What the actual fudge? He was supposed to reform in the future, not the past. The future. Not wait, please. The blonde ran towards the bars, his tiny fingers gripping the iron. Ugh. He was glancing around, hopelessly searching for the fox. Beautiful tears were gathering in the corner of his eyes. Stop. Naruto crying is not. Threatening to spill. The sight made Kurama's stomach drop. I understand. The demon fox had met Naruto during his first high-ranking mission all the way back on that bridge. Right. Before that point, the QB couldn't say what he knew about the blonde's childhood. He had hidden himself languishing behind the seal, not caring about how the accursed village treated his warden. I understand. You just got sealed into a newborn when you didn't want to be sealed in the first place. Understandable. Even as an adult, Naruto didn't talk about his childhood much. Well, hopefully he got therapy. I'm just saying he's a Hokage and everything, but his childhood was still bad. I mean, the villagers treated him like trash. Still, I mean, right up till King's invasion, it was still kind of standoffish with him, even after he defeated Gara during the Chunin exams. So he was 16. Now, 16 years later, he's the Hokage, and everybody's pretending like nothing happened. Can we get some therapy? Can we include Sasuke and Kakashi in that? All that Fox knew was the scant mentions of the glares, the name calling, and the fate of his. Do they have to be dumb? And what about Kushina? She didn't have a say in all of this, to be honest. She was just picked as the next Nine-Tails Jinchuriki after Mito, okay? She was a kid herself. What she gotta do with anything? Okay, you being extracted from her is what killed her in the first place. I mean, we can talk about her treating you badly, but everything else was not her fault. Hilarious. Well, at least the younger blonde didn't have that stupid buzz cut. You wanna know what? I actually don't mind Naruto's hair in Boruto. I don't. It don't look that bad. Not that bad. If Kurama was in the past, he could at least prevent that travesty. It wasn't that bad. Wait. Yeah, you're just not realizing you're in the past. He was in the past. His kid was a child, which meant Kurama grinned maliciously to himself. He slammed his fist into the ground and stalked towards the crying child. The blonde head collapsed onto his knees, thinking nobody could see him. Oh, no. This was just sad. Yes, it is. Not hey, stop with the crying. That's not how you comfort a child that's crying. Telling them to stop crying, and then you sneering. You snarled at him. That's not you. Do this. He lay down in the water with his paws folded before him, watching as the blonde jumped onto his feet with a large frown. I have a name, and you're the one who disappeared. There he is. He puffed his cheeks and gave Kurama his signature angry pout. Oh. Yep, this is the cuties brat, alright. Right, give everybody attitude and don't be knowing nothing. Like, do you even know the situation that you're in? If this wasn't Kurama from the future, you would be, I don't know, dead perhaps. At least injured a little bit. Perhaps afraid a lot more than you are right now. Rolling his eyes, the demon fox huffed out his breath, the red chakra steaming around the kid. Right, right. So, why are you crying then? Not you grumbling. Naruto frowned, bowing his head and kicking at the water. The fox chased a nail in the water, watching his charge with boredom. He knew his brat the way he acted, even if this one was smaller than the one he had left behind. Nobody wants to play with me. Stop. Kurama flicked an ear. Sorry, why is that funny? The side of his mouth pulling back in a lazy half smirk. How nostalgic. Not you getting nostalgia over this. Nobody wanting to play with Naruto is bringing you nostalgia. Is easy? Let me guess. People thinking you're a monster. The fox lifted his finger and twirled it in a half circle. Naruto's head shot up, his mouth hanging open in surprise. The blonde stepped closer, taking his fingers to the bars. How'd you know? He asked. Simple. In the same way, people fear me, torment me, and then send me away in human-sized barrels to keep me contained. The blonde swiped a sleeve across his cheeks, smearing snot on his chin. Disgusting. Is that detail needed? The fox rolled his eyes again. How can his kid be so soft? What are you talking about? It took Naruto years to be like, he wants to be Hokage so people will see him, respect him. It took him years to get to that point, okay? To think this was the same boy who had tamed him, befriended the Bougie, and ended the fourth great shinobi war. He swiped out a fairy tail tip, gently wiping away Naruto's tears. Oh, that's cute. It's a cute visual. Kind of horrifying if you don't really know Kurama. Like a giant fox wiping your tears. Somebody just coming upon that image is. The child remained frozen, letting the chakra demon's fur tickle his skin. It was massive, red, and angry as the sun, but it was gentle too. He never felt the gentle touch of another creature. People despised him, and now this giant Tanuki looking thing was comforting him and trading quips. What was the cat? Bravery is not trading quips. Who are you? Naruto repeated his question from earlier. You can call me Kurama, but you don't want to know what humans know me as, right? The nine-tailed fox. The fox's tail disappeared again, leaving the blonde staring into the most oversized snout he had ever seen. Oh, well, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. Where are you? Are you a dog? Is crazy. You ever seen a dog before? Oh my gosh. And not you introducing yourself with such excitement. What if your intuition is non-existent? If Kurama wasn't, I don't know. Not the child clapped his hands, a giant grin spreading across his tanned face. Kurama huffed. There, the boundless energy his Horton always pulled out of it. Oh, not a box. Naruto's face dropped, his eyes widening. The fox watched him, not knowing how his charge would take his response. The child would learn about his status as a Jinchuriki later in life, and not this early. Gyugi had traveled back in time. He could afford to break a few rules, right? If it meant his kid had a better childhood. Who freaking cared about the future, right? At this point, we done been through too much to be like, let me relive this. No, let's not. A fox. You look more like he's still holding on to that. Does it look like I have a giant ball sack? It's hilarious. The blonde narrowed his eyes and peered into the darkness, hoping to make out more of Kurama's form. But the fox sniffed and shifted his body away from his kid's view, leaving only his face and paws to grace his vision. To grace his vision. You're still talking to me. Kurama lifted his head, gently touching his kid's cheek with the tail tip again. Smiled, and the fox frowned when he felt him tilting his head more into his fur. Nobody talks to you, huh? No. No. Nobody. The QB stepped closer to the gate, his snout peeking slightly for Naruto to touch. The child gladly accepted, racing his fingers over the fox's snout with the desperation that made the demon frown even further. Not my classmates do, and so does Uruka Sensei, but most adults hate me. Yeah, adults. Adults are stupid. Especially the civilians. I mean, they don't know anything about being a ninja, chakra, jutsu. No, what civilian ninjas, but they're different from regular civilians. Now, I would be surprised if it was, regular ninja that was treating you like this because they ought to know better, right? But then again, this is the Naruto universe we're talking about. Everybody here gets emotional. And the Nine Tails attack killed a lot of people, so naturally they might be looking for somebody to blame, and that's Naruto. Doesn't make any sense if they knew anything about sealing. Perhaps I am overestimating their knowledge because from what I think I know, Minato and Kushina were like one of the last ones to actually know anything about sealing and how to actually seal stuff. Like they were experts, outside of Jiraiya. Kakashi might have known a little bit just because Minato was his sensei, but I don't think there's many people outside of them plus Hiruzen, Danzo with them who knows anything about sealing. So perhaps they don't know the difference in Naruto just being Naruto and a Jinchuriki and them having a Nine Tails fox or just a tailed beast in general. Maybe they don't know. Who knows? Sincerely, I would hope that Shinobi know a little bit about healing. I mean, at least the fundamentals. I mean, kind of know the basics about everything to counter, right? Kurama shouldn't ask. He knew the truth, but couldn't stand the loneliness. Tracing his kid's face, he was smiling, but it wasn't joyful. The child was trying hard to suppress his emotions. Those adults, that stupid third Hokage. Not Naruto's parents, forcing the child to act as his human-sized girl. Who else was gonna do it? I mean, realistically, you just can't know anybody. Yeah, Jinchuriki, they gotta have enough chakra to be able to hold you. And the Uzumaki is extinct, and they were mainly the ones that were doing the sealing. Nobody else in a village has as much chakra as Naruto. Even as a baby, he had a lot. And I highly doubt that even if they were to leave you alone, the humans were to leave you alone, that you were going to stop attacking the village. Because I think even after Minato defeated Obito, you were no longer under the genjutsu, and you were still just standing there doing what you do. So you were still low-key destroying the village. I highly doubt they really had a choice in that matter. They had to do something. Realistically. Sighing deeply, the fox bit his lip. It was time to put a bandage. Oh my gosh. What about your parents? Ooh. He heard a wet gasp and tiny fingers digging deeper into his snout. Rama cringed when he felt tiny droplets of water falling on his fur. Yep, this was painful. More so for Naruto than a fox, but the child deserved better and did. And did. I don't have parents. Nobody wants me. I'm an orphan. Stop. Well, that's just not true. I know your parents wanted you. Why you gotta scoff? Why you gotta scoff about it? Welp. The timeline shattered into tiny pieces. Not like the demon fox cared right at this point. This kid was stupid, but he deserved so much better than what these idiotic adults gave him, right? Adults are idiotic. He knew how to give him his parents, or at least one of them. If his idea worked, the waterworks would stop, and hopefully his second imprisonment wouldn't be so bad. Or his second imprisonment. Anything was better than activating barrier mode again and facing off against one of those ugly looking pale aliens. Honestly, I have a theory about that, but I'm not gonna get into it. You knew my parents? You're lying. Nope. Not at all. Kurama sighed and leaked more of his chakra, just enough to lick at the child's senses. If he weren't careful, the seal would weaken and he'd have a feral Jinchuriki running amok. Don't need that. He did not want a repeat of the bridge, not this early. Cursed the future bastard for befriending him. Now he cared about Naruto growing claws and fangs. Hilarious. The child stiffened, sensing the passionate chakra, looking up into red eyes of fury. The giant fox wasn't angry at him, he was angry for him. But when the chakra licked his cheek, he felt a heavy weight settle in his chest. The fox was telling the truth. You knew your parents, kid. I wouldn't lie to you about that. The blind slipped in a breath. He practically climbed onto the fox's snout. You do that. He is Kurama literally on the ground. His fingers struggling to find perches. He sobbed furiously, tearing his face into red fur, not caring if the fox saw him cry. Kurama crashed. His kid was an emotional one, always had been. That he was used to a bubbly feeling of happiness or the sharpness of his rage. This was unfiltered sadness, wet and slippery. Does it have to be described like that? Like a bra sliding down a pile of his kid's favorite noodles. Where are they? Why did they leave me? Because Rama sighed, digging a canine to his bottom lip. His idea was simple. It should be easy, right? He had to convince the child to pick at the seal just enough to trigger the failsafe. This was agonizing, I understand. The child was too young, too trusting. Too trusting is an understatement. It was lonely, but not enough to make him grow into the loudmouth prankster Kurama remembered. Well, he might as well commit. The timeline was dead already. Wow. Naruto desperately craved attention, and this time he would deliver. No. Your parents didn't abandon you, they died for you. And did. Big blue eyes full of tears turned up to stare at the demon. A wet sob echoed from the blind, but his fingers continued to cling to the fox's fur. Why don't you ask them? I know a way to make one appear. Wow. Really? How? Triggering a failsafe. The child wiped his eyes with his sleeve, sniffling and rubbing his snot into Kurama's fur. Disgusting. Oh my gosh. Hello? The child wiped his eyes. The fox spit down on his instinct to lunge. I know that's right. Because why are you wiping your snot on me? You see that seal? I want you to pick at it. He lifted his snout, ignoring Naruto's cry of surprise, and lifted the child higher towards the seal. Ruka Sensei says seals aren't meant to be broken. Naruto tilted his head confusedly. You aren't breaking it, kid. It'd be bad for both of us if you did. Well, he cringed at the memory of an eight-tailed Naruto nuking everything in sight. Well, there was a good reason for that. You know, pain had hurt Hinata. You know, his wife. He still didn't like humans, but he couldn't let a miniature eight-tail weapon of mass destruction loose. If they ever met again, he would never hear the end of it from his future brats. Yep, you surely wouldn't. Naruto bit his lips, sitting on his snout and staring at the fox. He was grumpy, like an old man, but he was talking to him like a person, not a monster. Was it because the fox was also a monster? He had said that humans treated him the same way. Fox's eyes were burning and furious like a fire in a wooden stove. Red chocolate filtered out the fox's mouth, steaming the water around him, but never touching him. This animal was massive and powerful. Even with his dual senses, Naruto could sense that much. He tilted his head, one of his hands idly petting fur. Oh, how many tails do you possess, Kurama? 9. Oh. And Kurama paused, his mouth pulling back into a poor display of pride. Blue eyes continued to watch him without fear as he stood up fully, stepping further into the dull light. 9 massive tails of dense chocolate flared out behind him. Did you have to do all that? Well, why can I picture him doing that exact same move? I feel like I've seen him do it before. You are the Cuban no Kutsu. Yes, yes. Naruto stated he mentally traced each tail, watching them whip back and forth across the water. Impressive. I guess you aren't as dumb as you look. Hilarious. Only he can say that. Get away with it. That is not something you say to somebody. Naruto huffed, crossing his arms and puffing out his cheeks like a fox kid. I know about you, everybody does. You attacked my village. There he was, the Spitfire that Kurama remembered. He grinned again. His breath should have been in the Chiha, okay? You going too far with that. Considering how much fire he had under the hood, the squirt stood on his now yelling at the QB. Wow, he was either incredibly brave or just plain reckless. With Naruto, there is no way to know. At this age, I would say it's just plain reckless. You know, he had the reputation as the #1 unpredictable ninja for a reason. Yes, he does. He's way too unpredictable. First off, I wasn't in control. Second off, you try being contained in a human for centuries and then get back to me. You're a jerk fox who killed people. Did you kill my parents? Well, I would say indirectly. Your parents died, sealing me away. The fox sat back on his haunches, ensuring the child didn't fall from his perch. They did what? But I thought the fourth Hokage did. Naruto's blonde brows furrowed together, his cheeks puffing again. Right, so why don't you put two and two together? The fourth Hokage sealed away Kurama. And Kurama just told you your parents sealed him away and died trying. The Kyuubi's chakra poked at his senses, revealing the fox's humor and honesty. Why was the demon so open with him? Well, because y'all got history. Y'all got history, but you don't know about that yet. Why don't you ask him yourself? Pull at the seal, but don't remove it. Kurama tapped at the gate with a nail. Naruto tilted his head to stare at the seal written in blood in a language he couldn't read. You're the Kyuubi. You want to make someone it. Kurama rolled his eyes. People thought this squirt was unintelligent. Yes, he just didn't show his intelligence sometimes for some reason. He just needed to be, actually taught. Actually taught and not just discarded and ignored. Naruto needed to be properly educated, had been neglected, and only received proper shinobi training after becoming a genin. His kid may not be very book smart, but he carried a wisdom that most shinobi lacked. Must be from the years tying around as a poor war orphan he guessed. Sure. Because kid, I don't want to fight another of your Hokages, okay? Your last one was annoying, but that monkey Hokage is an old windbag. Hilarious. Hey, don't mind Gigi. He isn't that old. He's in his 60s, and isn't he mid 60s? He's old. I mean, not that old, like, the future advisors. They should be dead. I'm sorry. They should be. They've been advisors this entire time. From Hiruzen to even Minato during his brief Hokage to back to Hiruzen to Tsunade to Kakashi to Naruto. They were still the freaking advisors. They need to retire. They need to retire or something. Because it's not given. Still couldn't match up to me. Now the fourth, that guy was impressive. You kind of like Minato, don't you? Naruto's little fist pounded into his nose. The tiny blonde turned away with the hoof and showed him his back. So why do you want me to pick at the seal? As I said, I want to see your parents. I know a way. One of them sealed some of their chakra in the seal. Kurama growled. It had to hold back his anger. His version of his brat wasn't used to his temper. If this didn't go right, he wouldn't get a second chance. Naruto knew his identity. And why should I trust you? Naruto whispered. He turned his head to the side, revealing a big blue eye full of tears. I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm doing this because I want to. And the one who fought them, I know about their seals. He heard a slight sniffle and watched the child rub his face. Naruto turned back around, his hands on his hips. Guess you don't know what it's like to be a monster. stop. You aren't the monster kid I am. If I wanted to, I could break free and screw you right where you stand. What? Not you bluffing. Rama growled. He knew he couldn't. The seal preventing him from doing anything unless it weakened. Naruto's smile grew until it took over his entire face. Why? How is this kid so cute? The fox wanted to hurl. You're not used to cuteness. Did you see Boruto and Himawari growing up? They were cute. The fox wanted to hurl. No way was he telling him that. You can't though, because you want me to pick it. Clocked you. He saw right through your bluff. Look, either way, you refuse to do it or prove me right. Either way you choose. If his kid didn't go with his ideal, he'd fall back into the darkness, watching over him from the shadows. This time, though, Naruto would not endure loneliness again, even if that meant Kurama had to force him to grow claws for his safety. The blonde frowned. This was the Kyuubi no Kitsune talking to him. The same monster that had killed the fourth Hokage and destroyed his village, the most powerful Buju, an angry force of nature that nobody could tame. So why was he speaking so calmly? Why was he treating Naruto like a human child, not like a demon himself? You're not a demon, you're a human child. I wish somebody else can just tell him that. The Kyuubi traced a claw in the water with boredom. He was telling the truth, showing no interest in escaping his prison, and telling Naruto things because he wanted to, not because he was being forced to. What's in it for you? Naruto asked. The fox shrugged one shoulder, staring at him with a lazy smirk. Entertainment. He didn't elaborate further. Understand? Minato comes back to life. He's gonna be so pissed. He's gonna be so mad. And imagine Kakashi. That's going to be an entertainment right there. Is Kushina coming back? Entertainment. Kushina's temper, in my opinion, is way worse than Minato's. Minato is an artificial calm, a natural calm. Like, he barely gets angry. From what we seen anyway. Naruto glanced back at the seal, a grim frown pursing his lips. Turning to the Kyuubi once more, he nodded his head. Fox's grin widened. The giant monsters show happiness instead of looking like serial killers. Well, probably not because of the fangs. You know. Kurama lifted Naruto towards the seal, ensuring not to touch the bars so it wouldn't activate. The young blonde picked at one of its corners, eyes narrowing when he felt the stored chakra respond to his touch. As soon as he lifted a corner of the paper, it sprung to life. Naruto was flung back by a force of chakra, falling off Kurama's snout as the massive fox howled in pain. Kurama, no. Not you in pain. The child was too dazed to respond. He felt a pair of strong arms lovingly wrapped around his middle as he was pulled into someone's chest. He saw a flash of yellow before falling into a deep sleep. The person seated to a halt across from the QB. Water splashed around the pair. The fox staring at the newcomer, grinning ear to ear. Not you grinning at Minato. What? Wait, Naruto? The man stood up, gingerly holding the child as if it were made of glass. Long time no see. Please. The fourth Hokage held his child closer to his body and seethed at the demonic. This shouldn't happen. His child was too young to activate his chakra. His seal was perfectly intact, so how did the monster convince him to touch it? He carefully pried at the seal, noting that Kushina's chakra was still safely nestled in it, meaning their son hadn't been trying to control the QB. What did you do? How did he know about you? Stared down at his rat's father and grinned. Why are you grinning in this situation? His tail slashed out behind him in excitement. You are enjoying this too much. Making the room rattle with his power. Part 1 of his plan was complete. Now, all he had to do was spur 2. I pulled him here so we could talk. He wanted to meet his parents. You know about my chakra. Before stated, yeah, talk about it. And Kurama stalked closer to the gate, his chakra. And now with every breath he took, he could feel his other half, distant but there. This wasn't the entire fourth Hokage. This was just a chakra ghost he had left behind, okay? Kurama's other half was sealed away with the rest of the fourth soul, but he could sense it. It's crazy that you can sense it. Dead people didn't just spring back to life, especially without chakra. The kiwi was made of chakra. He smiled and mentally reached out to his other half, calling over the distance and sharing his memories. The fourth Hokage cuddled his sleeping son close, frowning at the bruise on a child's cheek. His fingers pressed gently to the child's skin, causing him to flinch away from his father's touch. Hey, your chakra won't last long. The hilarious mythical yellow flash stared up at the monster he had died to seal away. His son should not be meeting him, at least not at this age. From his estimation, Naruto was about 5 or 6 years old, and the seal was perfectly stable, so how did the demon reach out to his child? And why was he bruised? I know that, so tell me why he activated me, he calmly stated. Calmly. You're too calm. The fox's near widened further, going off, his sharp teeth and tongue licking up one side of his gums. That is descriptive. Because of this, Kurama murmured. The fourth Hokage cringed, a sudden burst of pain radiating from his middle before pouring into his limbs. He shouldn't feel pain in this form. He was a chakra ghost. It wasn't physical pain, but something more intangible. Their energy was being forcibly pumped into his channels, supplementing but not overcoming his chakra. Oh, what are you doing? The fourth fell onto his knees, holding his son closely. Would it fall into the water? Kurama responded by leaning back and grinning. Giving you my energy, of course. He shrugged, both large paws rising from the ground into the darkness around him. Demon Fox knew he was the yang half, while the fourth possessed his yin half. It was done years ago to prevent his son from burning up from overwhelming chakra. It didn't matter what half was possessed by whom. Kurama was one entire being, a literal force of chakra given physical form. He was just cut down in size to be less of a threat. He should have reformed years in the future, free and once again complete. The waking up behind the seal in the past had forced him apart again. Right, that makes sense. Because during the war, Naruto got all of him again. The fourth trembled, keeping his son close, staring up at the demonic fox. It had cost him and his wife their lives. You are smart. I'm sure you appreciate what I'm giving you, but don't waste all my chakra. Kurama growled. Wow. The demon fox slammed his face into the bars, pushing out as much chakra as possible. Both blondes are blown out of the mindscape, disappearing into the darkness with the wind the fox conjured. With his energy spent, the QB fell back into the water with a deep sigh. That one freaking hurt. He glared at the seal, but pulled away before it could burn him again. He crossed his paws and laid his head down, satisfied. He was in the past. Whether he liked it or not, he might as well make the most of it. Hope you're happy, father. I'm breaking the rules. He is, actually. He just turned the fourth Hokage into a QB pirate Jinchuriki. His Jinchuriki just gained a father. And the yellow flash burned Konoha to the ground. For his son's treatment was just entertainment waiting to happen. His kid would have a good childhood this time. Alright. That was just the first chapter. Very long. That took me 58 minutes. This video is super long. Anyway, that was a good introduction chapter to a fanfic. I mean, the best I've read in a while. Like, I've never read a fanfic where the first chapter is that long and it takes me that long to read it. But I love this book. I just forgot where I left off, so that's why I'm restarting it for y'all. Anyway, yeah. Currently, I think this book has 50 something chapters. I think 59, but it hasn't been updated since like October 1st, so we'll see if it'll be updated soon. I hope it is, because it's a really good book and there's not that many of those in the Naruto fandom. So yeah, we'll see y'all in the next video for chapter 2.